with Monash University and supported by KADIN Indonesia with the topic of University Industry Partnerships, Evidence-Based Solutions. We have our speakers today, Ibu Shinta Kamdani, Vice-Chairwoman KADIN Indonesia, Professor Andrew MacIntyre, Senior Prof Vice-Chancellor Southeast Asia Partnerships Monash University, Herman Wijaya, SVP and CDO of Tokopedia, Maria Harrison-Smith, Senior IP Manager, Monash University, and last but not least, Bapak George Iwan Marantika, National President of IABC, who will be our moderator today. My name is Arfad Baparsha. I am the Executive Director of IABC. Please be advised that you will be muted during the session. We will have a Q&A session at the end, so I would encourage you to communicate your questions in the chat box. Without further ado, I will hand this over to Bapak George Iwan Marantika to officially commence the session. But George, the Zoom room is yours.
Thank you, Arfad. Thank you for coming in from Jakarta, the World Trade Center, the IABC Secretariat. And I'm coming from the old town, the heritage city of Yogyakarta, the center of education in Indonesia, and the first capital of the Republic of Indonesia. Coming from Yogyakarta, I send you greetings from the IABC board and its member base. And I want to thank all of our collaborators, partnering organizations here, Monash University, which Monash Indonesia is a member of IABC, and the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or KADIN Indonesia, here represented by our Vice Chairman, Ibu Shinta Kamdani. And colleagues, friends, and audience today, we're going to discuss a very important topic, especially during this COVID-19 economic impact in which we are now considering economic recovery. In Indonesia, national economic recovery, obviously in Australia, and also I'm quite sure globally, we're all talking about how to recover from this pandemic. And the university and industry partnerships, how to collaborate, find solutions, innovations in this new economy post-COVID will be key and crucial for economic growth to recover. And so with that, the theme for today, which has been presented to us, and that is University Indonesia Partnerships, Evidence-Based Solutions, is a crucial theme, especially as Indonesia is also anticipating a cabinet reshuffle or a cabinet change, as the parliament has just agreed on new posting in ministries. And we have a very big ministry coming in, that is the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Research and Technology. So that, I think, aligns with the topic today. And so with that, we will kick off with the topic today from a keynote speech from the Vice Chairman of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, KADIN, Ibu Shinta Kamdani. She's also the Vice Chairman of APindo, both in KADIN and APindo, in charge of our global engagement in international relations. But Ibu Shinta herself is a prominent businesswoman, leading one of the biggest business groups in Indonesia, Sintesa Group, as the chairman and CEO. And she too is also a very, you might say, strong philanthropist, and with very many social activities, including involved with the United Nations in various activities with the United Nations. So Ibu Shinta, who is also the special advisor to our coordinating Minister of Economic Affairs, Bapak Erlangga Hartarto, which by coincidence, I believe is an alumni of Monash. The Ibu Shinta, the Zoom floor is yours.
Thank you, George, and good morning to you all in Jakarta. Good afternoon in Australia. It's an honor for me to be part of this webinar. First of all, I would like to congratulate Monash University in making the first ever education investment in Indonesia. I think this is a very big step out of the Indonesia-Australia economic partnership agreement. And I think this will really make a big step towards bringing in more investors in this area also to do work in Indonesia. So today's topic on University Industry Partnership, actually this is something that the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or KADIN Indonesia, as the umbrella of all businesses in Indonesia mandated by law, has been really doing a lot of work and cooperation with universities. So membership of KADIN, not just companies, but also all the sectoral associations. So all industries, sectoral industries are actually part of us. And we have been working with many of the university and academia because we believe it's very, very important, especially when we talk about research and technology. We talk about human capital development. We talk about entrepreneurship and innovation. So there are many ways how we've been working together. But I would like to perhaps start this with kind of have a background. How is this technology disruption actually during COVID has also changes a lot of our business and industry environment permanently. I think it's common knowledge that obviously COVID pandemic created a huge disruption to our life and businesses. However, it is less understood how permanent this become. And the fact is that technology disruption created or accelerated by COVID pandemic will permanently change the business and industry environment permanently. In April 2020, I think the World Economic Forum pointed out 10 technology trends which are predicted to stay beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. And I would just want to show the slides here, starting from online shopping and robot deliveries to digital contactless payment, all the way to telehealth, supply chain 4.0, 3D printings, and so forth. So although the utilization on some of this technology may be less intensive in post-academic, so like distance learning, remote working, telehealth, the technology itself will not revert back, and it will not change. It will change business and industry ecosystem as well as its map of competition permanently. So this is proven in the leaps of technology adoption in business process and rapid digitalization of business output. McKinsey report in October, I think, last year found that the leap of technology adoption during pandemic is the greatest in the Asia Pacific region. And the report found that the share of products and services which are partially or fully digitized increased from 33% in December 2019 to 54% by July 2020. And this report also found that companies in Asia Pacific speeds up itself more rapidly compared to the rest of the world in creating digital or digitally enhanced offering of products and services. Now, acceleration of technology adoption on company in Asia Pacific is faster by 10 years or more due to the pandemic, while the average of the global technology adoption acceleration is only about 7 years. So I want to just show here that on the McKinsey chart, the year in the chart indicates the time companies will need to create the digitized products or services if the pandemic does not happen. And the bar indicates the percentage share of total goods or services which are partially or fully digitized that are offered by companies in each region. The supply chain 4.0 refers to the supply chain management system, which replaced paper-based record of inventory, delivery, tracing, and etc. And disruption in this aspect primarily adopts the utilization of big data management, cloud computing, Internet of Things, and blockchain technology to improve data accuracy, data accessibility, and data sharing capability every time, everywhere, in real time. And robotics and drones, of course, are tech trends that refer to replacing people-to-people interaction. With robot or AI interaction, it is more pronounced in developed countries like Japan, New Zealand, Europe, but quite irrelevant for Indonesia. Indonesia's current extent of replacing human to robots AI is commonly found in form of chatbots for customer service purposes. It is mostly utilized in e-commerce or fintech. Now, if we go to the next slide, we can see that how technology adoption in business process and demand to create changes in business output will require a whole different set of talents, skill, and human capital in the workforce. Job Market Intelligence report projected that the skill gap in each job posting will be higher in post-COVID compared to pre-COVID due to the company adoption to technology. And this report stated that only about 16% of new hire possesses the skill needed for their current jobs and the jobs of the future. Workers with fully matched skills set to job in 2017 on average will require up to 10 new skills to meet the job changing skill demand by 2021. And this makes the number of skills required for a single job to increase by 10% per annum. And I think this is something that we really need to pay attention, especially in Indonesia, because in the Indonesian workforce is dominated by unskilled worker instead of semi-skilled or skilled worker. While Indonesia's technology adoption is one of the fastest growing in Southeast Asia. Even prior to the pandemic, KADIN Indonesia often found companies in many of the sectors which spend their resources to train and educate its new hire to meet the job skill demand prior to letting them join the production process. Thus, the need for rescaling, upscaling, and retraining of Indonesian workers will be even more important and vital to business competitiveness post-COVID. At the moment, the key challenge for Indonesia is the link and match. Whatever comes from the education cannot be absorbed by the industry. So the link and match is, we are trying to improve this. And this we are also working with industry and providing vocational training, so forth, you know, to really address the link and match. And I think we are now working with a lot of pilot projects as well in many of the industry setup in what we call the factories and kawasan industry, so that we can identify what actually the kind of skill needed in those industry and how the education element can play part of it. And this is why we have been working with the government, also with the Ministry of Manpower, with the Ministry of Industry, to really have a roadmap in how we're going to work this. And I think the last slide I wanted to share also is the triple helix collaboration for this solution. So if we see the business government collaboration, the supporting ecosystem for entrepreneurship, apprenticeship, and human capital development, incentive also for R&D and human capital, government and university collaboration, reform in education system to support continuous learning and innovation, investment climate in education and spending for R&D, as well as certification and skill recognition and acknowledgement. The business university collaboration, the curriculum alignment to industry need, and also upskilling, rescaling, and retraining, and on-the-job trainings. At the moment, also the Employers Association is working with some university and doing some apprenticeship as well as mentoring programs with some of the businesses. University company collaboration for broad products and services innovation, and also some scholarship and awards. In essence, Indonesia has been doing a lot of reform to accommodate the triple helix collaboration. Sample of the reform also include the super tax deduction scheme for R&D and human capital development for companies since December 2019. And also the omnibus law, I think, plays a big part on the reform of investment climate for higher education and vocational education, as well as expanding workers' benefit scheme to fund workers' independent upscaling, rescaling, and retraining interests. We have also a business and university cooperation for students on the, I mentioned before, on the job training, corporate sponsor, a scholarship, collaborative program to absorb graduate to certain school. some businesses even doing work on the R&D directly with certain universities. And I think this is something that we can really look forward to see how to also work with Monash universities and others who are just coming to Indonesia. I think all in all, I wanted to just close by saying the reform right now is quite fragmented and a bit uncoordinated and lacking the focus to innovation, primarily to generate innovation or R&D output, which can be commercialized by business to serve the market demand. So this is something that we need to look at. And I think we, from the business side, look forward to work with more university and create more partnership with industry so that we can really have a win-win outcome and the triple helix collaboration can actually happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Shinta. And I know you might have to leave later because of other engagements you have, but I would like to pose a question that several of us are curious about and just listen to your thoughts about this. As you know, the Parliament has approved the President's request to merge basically the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology. And this all relates to what you've been sharing. As we await whom will be the minister, obviously that is the prerogative of the President, maybe you can share your thoughts what, as industry, you expect from that ministry, because from our understanding, that type of merge will lead to education-based, industrial-based education linkages, the concept that you've just shared with us. Please, maybe Bu, you can share your thoughts. Yeah, thank you, Bu.
Yeah, thank you, George. So actually, why I've been mentioning about working with the different government ministry, what we're doing is each of the ministry, especially in terms of innovation, we have been working with the Ministry of Technology, obviously, and what we call the Research and Technology. But we are also working with the Ministry of Industry, the Ministry of Education, and so forth. So I think what the government, by bringing the Ministry of dissolving the Ministry of Research and Technology and put the entity under the education, it is not minimizing, I think, the role of how important research and technology is. I think what the government is trying to do is really be more on alignment in terms of, how we can set the demand and of course the supply. So basically, government is trying to align this in putting the essential that education is also a very big part of the research and technology. So the agency, the entity that will be there in a replacement of the ministry will actually still play a very strong, important role in working on the research and technology side. What is even more important now, that all the ministry is also working with industry. What it means is, even in that education ministry now, we have a special working group that identify what are the needs of the industry. And so this is now communication and conversation that takes place, and we actually have a special committee and working group for this, and coming out with the exact roadmap, what actually are required. And also on the research and technology side, when I mentioned about commercialization, because a lot of time when these are standing on its own, it's very difficult to really capture how that the technology and innovation can also be commercialized for industry and business. So I do believe that the intention of the government by putting it together is really to just also bring the industry to play a role in working and engaging. So it doesn't mean that it put less important because it's now no longer a ministry. It's more of how the setup and the strategy, putting out the roadmap, roll out the roadmap out there and working with it. So the way I feel is this is more on a nomenclature, what we call the structure, right? But the intention and the objective of the agency will still be there, like the ministry before.
George, could I ask a short follow-on question to Bu Shinta?
Professor Andrew MacIntyre from Monash University. Go ahead, sir.
Just a quick question. It follows on from Bu Shinta's response to you, and it relates to your last slide, Bu, on the triple helix. Yeah, and you talked about government, industry university, and government university. I'm interested in your perception of which of those three parts of the triple helix model so far is working most effectively in Indonesia?
It's a tough question, Andrew. I think, if I may be honest, I think government has put a lot of effort to want to make it work. I think the government university collaboration perhaps has worked, but we are all starting and we are on the right path. Unfortunately, it's still in quite a slow pace. So the direction maybe is right, but it's still hard to scale up and push it through. So I would say, even from business side, I have to admit that not all business are in this game, right? In other words, this is why the chamber plays a big role, because we want to embrace and be inclusive to bring as many businesses as we can. And I think this is something that the pushing and how we can scale this up is the most important. So a lot of initiative has been done. I think the government is clearly that this needs to work, but we need to really drive it through to accelerate the process.
Very good. Well, thank you, Bu Shinta. And you know, we are rest assured with you as our vice chairman in KADIN, and obviously your role in Apindo and in various organizations, and you're on the advisory board of our coordinating minister of economic affairs. We are rest assured with you there, our government, the Indonesian government, will be on track into moving forward and progressing. Maju terus gitu. So, Bu Shinta, you're welcome to continue to join this panel. We're going to actually have a conversation now based on the presentation that you've just shared, and what are the evidence-based solutions regarding university and industry linkages. And there'll be connection to IP, intellectual property, and how we can collaborate in IP, and obviously IP creates valuations. So with that, Bu Shinta, you're welcome to join, but we also know you have a lot of engagement, and we're very honored to have you join us. And to be transparent, Bu Shinta is my boss also in KADIN, because I chair the Australian committee under her supervision, and she kindly invited me to join the president in Canberra to see the announcement of the Monash University declaration in Indonesia. So with that, we now lead to, thank you, Bu Shinta, ya. Terima kasih loh, Bu. Thank you, Bu Shinta. Now, and so now we lead to Professor Andrew MacIntyre. He's the Senior Pro Vice-Chancellor in charge of Southeast Asia for Monash University. And obviously, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but I can call him Pak Rektor, right? for Monash Indonesia. So, and as Monash has established a full-blown campus university here in Indonesia, and is part of the higher education ecosystem or sector in Indonesia now. And so I will now give Professor Andrew the Zoom floor to share your thoughts. Professor, the Zoom floor is yours.
Thank you, Pat George, and it's an honor to be part of this exciting panel. So thank you to IABC, and really pleased to be following Ibu Shinta because her presentation sets up a great framework for us. I might just share my screen and bring up a couple of slides that we can work with. And I really want to follow on from what Bu Shinta was saying by really drilling down into this issue of innovation and industry partnerships and what universities can do, because I think we all understand that all around the world, there is a race going on for innovation. It's happening everywhere. COVID adds intensity, but this started long before COVID, yeah? This started long before COVID. And as Shinta emphasized, digitization is a key component of this. It's not the only component, but it's certainly a central component. And as we all know, President Jokowi has been giving a big emphasis to Industry 4.0 and related initiatives. And I think all of us understand, and Shinta's triple helix model made this very clear, that universities have an important part to play here. And everywhere in the world, universities are having to step up to lift their performance and adapt their performance to fit in with the needs of the modern economy. This started sooner in some areas than others. I mean, we've all heard the Silicon Valley story for a long time now, yeah? And we all know that in the US, it's not just Silicon Valley. I know from my own experience, many years working in San Diego, the way in San Diego, the biotech, biomed, communications tech industry has grown up around UC San Diego, my old university. We know in Seattle, we know in Boston and many others. And of course, it's not just the US. We know in the UK, we know in Israel, we know in Germany, we know in Singapore, we know in Shenzhen, we know in Shanghai, we know in Beijing, we know in New Delhi, we know in Bangalore, and now Indonesia. What do we think we will see happen over the next 1, 2, 3 years in Greater Jakarta, in Greater Bandung, in Greater Jogja, and in other urban centers? What do we think we will see is the potential for partnership from universities in Indonesia with industry and with government? It's starting in lots of exciting ways. This is a big opportunity for Indonesia. And I was interested to hear Shinta say that she's seen a big effort by government of Indonesia working with universities in Indonesia. That is my impression too. Big investments from government of Indonesia and Indonesian universities driving all sorts of exciting reforms so that they can play a bigger part in this innovative transformation, in this knowledge-led economic transformation, in this evidence-based transformation. So I think it's very exciting time for Indonesia, for universities in Indonesia. And you have to forgive me, Pat George, I think it's especially exciting for, I think I'm correct to say, the newest university in Indonesia. Certainly the first foreign university in Indonesia, and that is Monash University, Indonesia, which is taking its first students this year. So let me just tie the Monash story into the Indonesia story. Why is Monash coming to Indonesia? One of the reasons, a fundamental reason, is that from the birth of Monash University, Monash is a little bit younger than Republic Indonesia, yeah? From the birth of Monash University, the Republic of Indonesia has been closely connected. By our calculations, Monash University has graduated more Indonesian citizens than any other university in the world outside Indonesia itself. And I'm very pleased that we have a Monash alum on this panel, Pak Herman, who's got a great story, which we'll hear about in a minute. So for Monash, there's a long connection to Indonesia. But that's only part of the reason Monash is in Indonesia. The other part of the reason is that the government of Indonesia invited Monash University to come to Indonesia as the first foreign university. And Pak George, I know that you will remember this lunch. This is in the Great Hall at Parliament. You and I were both there. I think Shinta was there, and there in his fantastic tie is, of course, Pak President. You will know, but not everybody in this webinar will know the lady in the white dress. On either side of Pak President, diplomat translators, yeah? But the lady in the white dress, she is my boss. That is the rector or president or vice-chancellor of Monash University, Professor Margaret Gardner. And she was sitting next to Pak Jokowi at the lunch, at the state banquet, and they were having a long discussion. And as you will remember, Pak George, along with Prime Minister Scott Morrison, President Jokowi had very nice public announcement to make about Monash coming to Indonesia. And what he said to Professor Gardner that day was, "We are very keen to have you come. If you have any problems, please let me know." And I am very pleased to say that government of Indonesia has been so helpful, so responsive, that the plans for the establishment of Monash University have been able to proceed very rapidly. We are already approved. Our campus is in the picture behind me, out at Tangerang Selatan at BSD. Yeah? We are recruiting our students now, and we are recruiting our docent now. One of the most precious things we will be bringing to Indonesia is what I will call the Monash magic for industry engagement. And my colleague Maria knows much more about this than me, and she can talk in more detail about commercialization and all these exciting things. But I just put one little picture on the screen. You won't be able to see all the details, but it just gives you a map of the Monash Technology Precinct. And in that map, which you probably can't see, is the Monash Campus and a whole range of other institutions that are grouped around Monash to make this super powerful precinct. And it ranges from things like the nanotechnology fabrication center. It ranges to things like the synchrotron, really high-tech stuff. It goes to our brain park. We have the heart hospital. We have big companies ranging from German company Siemens to big resources company Woodside, all doing close collaborations. Now, I don't expect you to know all those details, but that is the magic that Monash is bringing to Jakarta. Just to finish, what will Monash Indonesia be doing? Well, let me just tell you what our mission is. Our mission is to make a clear and strong contribution to the further development of Indonesia. The economic, the technological, the social, cultural development of Indonesia. That is our mission. That is how we will be judged by the government of Indonesia, the people of Indonesia, and by ourselves. So this year we're getting started. We'll have master's programs, PhD programs, short courses. We're starting in 4 areas: data science, urban design, business innovation, public policy and management. Shortly after that, we'll be following with other ones such as public health, cybersecurity, supply chain management, environment and sustainability, transport infrastructure, digital health, creative economy, dan lain sebagainya. It's a very exciting agenda. And what you can see, that these are programs that are designed for impact, designed for making a big contribution, and central to our operating model. And this is a nice, getting ready to hand the microphone to Pak Herman. Central to our operating model will be partnerships. This also ties back to Bu Shinta's triple helix model. Partnerships dengan siapa ya? Partnerships with Indonesian universities, public universities, private universities, Muslim universities. Partnerships with Indonesian industry, with members of IABC, with members of KADIN. We have already started talking to Indonesian companies about potential partnerships. And of course, partnerships with government. So to finish, let me just say, global race for innovation. Now is Indonesia's moment. Now is Indonesia's big chance. Now the spotlight of the world is on Indonesia. Now is the big opportunity for Indonesian universities. And Monash University Indonesia is looking to contribute in its own distinctive way to bring that Monash magic to contribute to the Indonesian effort. Thank you, Pak George.
Thank you, Professor. Wow, that's very impressive. And that map, that industrial complex map, I think in the campus there in Monash is, you might say, one of the benchmarks, one of the global benchmarks of industry and university connections. And thank you, Pak Rektor.
Terima kasih, Pak.
Terima kasih, Pak. For the audience here, Professor Andrew is also very fluent in Bahasa Indonesia. So, so thank you, Pak Rektor, for sharing those thoughts. And as you were sharing, I was also taking a peek at our audience here, and I see also industry and education representation here. Pak Noka Kiroyan is with us. He's one of the leading business persons in Indonesia, former president of IABC, and I notice he's joining. Thank you, Pak Noka. And I notice even from academia, from the University of Gadjah Mada, the head of the management school department there, Dr. Sahid Nugroho is joining us with us. So we've got a good lineup of people joining us. I'm just taking a quick peek of our participants. I can't say hi to everyone, but a good lineup of educators and industrial representation here. And this is, thank you for your thoughts there, Professor. And we'll get into a conversation, as we move forward, because you actually led to Pak Herman. So you actually opened up the lead to Pak Herman, Professor Andrew. And Pak Herman is the Senior Vice President and CTO. Wow, that's a big title. You know, Chief Technology Officer. Wow, that's a big title of Tokopedia, And Tokopedia obviously making a lot of news in the media. Are you merging or are you not?
I cannot confirm nor deny. But exciting. Thanks for having us, Pak George.
So obviously we're not talking about the merging here, but the industry and education linkages, And so
Sure.
As Professor Andrew has led to your example, Pak Herman, and you're an alumni of Monash.
Yes, 2002, proud.
Very good, very good, and a proud alumni of Monash. And so, commenting on Professor Andrew's remarks, maybe you can share your thoughts as someone who is in industry, and actually a very hot industry, and that is tech. How that experience that Professor Andrew has shared can connect to your experience.
Sure, sure.
The Zoom floor is yours. Yeah.
Sure. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much. It's amazing to be part of this forum. First of all, happy fasting for all of the Muslim friends. May the good deeds of this holy month will bring greater blessings to you and your family. Yeah, I mean, thank you, Professor Andrew, and thank you, Bu Shinta, for setting up the floor. Man, the bar is high, so I need to catch up with Pak Rector Andrew now. Anyway, so I think from the industry, the acceleration, I agree with Bu Shinta theory that acceleration of digital due to pandemic is very exciting actually for Indonesia. I can say that economic projection indicates Indonesian economy is showing recovery this year, right? I think from our side, we are confident and optimistic that the economy and market condition will be even stronger this year, especially the vaccination program that began rolling out across the country. I think from the Tokopedia perspective, we continue focusing on the market in making sure that through digitalization, we are able to help our growing customer and our growing merchant. A good example alone is that last year alone, we actually had more than 2 million merchants, in which 85% more of those 2 million merchants are brand new entrepreneurs. So we are hoping that this pandemic is actually help the acceleration of the digital adoption. And I think there are definitely opportunities for that. Hi, George.
Okay, thank you. Well, now, because this is a conversation, I'm going to start hopping off various points here. And so I'm going to go back now to Professor Andrew, and I want you to comment on this, Pak Herman, because there's a question from Pak Noke Kiroyan, very well known in the business leader in Indonesia. He's with us today, and he sent the question. Basically, Prof. Andrew, if you can comment, and then this links to what you're saying, Pak Herman. But we're talking digitalization technology, but that does create a digital divide. And probably what Pak Noke is asking, a majority of the population of Indonesia, for example, are not 4.0 or 5.0, but probably, in Pak Erlangga Hartarto's words, when I had a discussion with him previously, the Minister of Coordinating Economic Affairs, is still a good bit of Indonesians is still 2.0, you know? And so, Prof. Andrew, with that, how do you mitigate that digital divide? And then I'll lead to you, Pak Herman.
Look, it's a really interesting and important question, Pak George, that Pak Noki's given us. I don't claim to have the full answer, but I have to say I am more optimistic than pessimistic on this one. So yes, it is, to use Pak Erlangga Hartarto's phrase, it is the case that in Indonesia and in many other countries in the world, many people are more still 2.0 than 4.0. Yes, that is true. And we know that there are bandwidth, internet access issues for people. Yes, that is true. But we also know that there's something very progressive. There's something very, if I can say, liberating, or maybe even democratizing about digital technology, because although not absolutely everyone can afford it, it is enabling people, even on lower incomes, to jump ahead of where they were compared to pre-digital technology. It's empowering people to have access to new commercial services from firms like Tokopedia, access to education services from Indonesian universities, from Indonesian vocational schools, from Indonesian schools themselves. It's opening up new potential in health. Now, I don't want to go on and be too optimistic because there is a challenge. It's definitely true that wealthy people have easier access. But the way I look at it is the wealthy people always have better access. What's so interesting about the digital revolution is it's giving better access to poorer people than was possible before digital technology. So I'm not saying there's no digital divide, but I am saying there's something, in my opinion, very optimistic and hopeful about this. I'd be interested to hear what Herman and maybe Patnoke, maybe what Patnoke has to say. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Herman. Yeah, so that you know, that's
I think
the talent pool. Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah. I'm actually quite blessed to be part of a company where the vision is to really democratize commercial technology. We are a marketplace, so we have a strong appetite in really, you know, we are a big believer that we can only win when everybody wins together. You know, so we have the opportunity to work with so many partners. Like we are working with more than 20 to 30 logistic partners, more than 20 to 30 bank partners. So what you are basically saying, Pak George, we actually see, right? They are definitely divide between quote unquote digital, more digital company, aka startup, which is very, very technology ambitious compared to the quote unquote the older enterprises, which is in 2.0. But I have to say that because of the pandemic, the acceleration for the enterprise, for the lack of better term, enterprise traditional company to actually further digitalize is becoming more important. For example, as we are actually seeing an amazing growth in the digital aspect, e-commerce one of them, Tokopedia is one of them. We cannot live by itself, right? I mean, we have to also, when we are successful, we need to be, in order for us to be successful, we need our logistic partner to be successful. In order for us to be successful, our payment partner needs to be successful. Many of them might not see the scale that e-commerce can actually bring, but I think together we basically work together so that everybody can actually raise up together, because all of the startup, all of the new digital technology companies, they will not be successful unless everybody actually raising up the boat. So I think this is where I like to use this hashtag, which is together, right? I feel that this is something that together we have to win. Government has to play the role. I'm really, really thankful that Industry 4.0, a lot of the excitement from the government is really putting a lot of investment in platform. Excitement from academia as well. We need like amazing smart brain from Professor Rector Andrew and the team to actually help us solving all of the hard problems. And I think the excitement from the industry as well. I believe that this is the time where industry should not play silo, right? Especially in digital talent adoption. This is where I think everybody needs to step up, needs to help each other. I'm really happy, for example, for Tokopedia, William, our co-founder, actually said for the next 10 years, one of his vision is to become a technology company that enable others to be technology company. I think that is very, very important and very, very much needed, by George.
Oh, very good, very good. Now, there's a question from the audience for you, Herman, and that is, so we talked about the digital divide, and both of you said this is an opportunity for the talent pool to, raise its bar into participating in this digital economy, and reap the rewards. But there is a question: how do you see the economy, especially currently in the pandemic? And obviously Tokopedia, you're sitting right on top of the, you are the market exchange. So how do you see that?
I'm not an economist, so I'm a technologist. So let me try to answer it from my lens. Maybe Professor Andrew has a smarter answer to this. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we can always see glass half empty or glass half full, right? I think I'm not saying that pandemic doesn't have any impact whatsoever. I mean, we are actually seeing it while the adoption of digital is actually increasing even at Tokopedia and other digital platforms. But it's not. We are not denying that the appetite of the market to purchase change, right? People are actually a bit more careful in spending. People are actually spending primarily more on the necessities rather than luxurious items, right? So I think from the Tokopedia perspective, right, I think this is where everybody has to really play its role. For example, for us, what we are trying to do these days is to really enable our platform to actually help the birth of more merchants, for example, to actually help them during this COVID situation, enable our customers to be able to actually get their stuff easier, faster, and everything else. I think, yes, I don't deny that there is economic impact, but I think as long as we are continue optimistic, which we have to, with the vaccine coming in, recently Pak Jokowi just said that we need to be 2045 Indonesia emas, gold Indonesia, right? Pak Jokowi believes that in 2045, which is 100 years of Indonesian independence, we will be one of the prominent market in the world. I think I'm very receptive to that. I think I still remember back in 2009 when I was in US, there was an amazing recession happening over there, where the house price actually dropped literally 40% to 50%. Many people lost their home because they were not able to refinance their home and everything else. At that time, a lot of the great leaders basically just say, hey, we continue optimistic despite the fact. And truly enough, they bounce back. I'm a big believer that in economy, there is always peak and there is always a bit of valleys. But at the end of the day, when you look at the historical aspect, it's always trending up, even though there is peak and valley. So I'm very optimistic. For me, it's an opportunity for us to bounce back big time, for us to really invest during this time, so that when the market is ready, we are ready.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Herman. Now, Prof. Andrew, your views, and before we go to Ibu Maria Harrison Smith regarding IP. Your views on the economic situation.
Well, look, my first comment is I think Herman's assessment was a really good one. The only thing I would add is to say, of course, the pandemic is affecting different sectors of the economy differently, yeah? Sectors of the economy that are sensitive to close physical human interaction. Tourism is a big example, yeah? It's a problem. Parts of the entertainment industry, it's a big problem. Parts of education, it's a problem. So for some industries, there really are major structural challenges here. Nevertheless, we all have to innovate. And those of us that do the best job in innovating, I think will come through this. And again, I want to link this back to Ibu Shinta's opening remarks and the KADIN view, just how digitization of the economy is key to this. And I think in very many, perhaps not all, but very many of the sectors and industries that bounce back fastest, digital innovation is going to be a key part of it.
Thank you, Professor. Well, so we need to stay optimistic, yeah, Professor?
Absolutely.
You're saying, right? So because there are opportunities, especially in the digital economy. Thank you, Professor Andrew, for sharing those thoughts. And now we're going to Ibu or Miss Maria Harrison Smith, who is the Senior IP Manager of Monash University. We've been talking a lot about the demand side, and now what about the doing side, the making side, and how the university and industry can link, especially from the perspective of the value of the linkages, which IP has a big role. And obviously, you're a patent lawyer, right, Ms. Maria? And so please share your thoughts on your experience from the Monash experience in Melbourne.
Thank you very much, Pat George. So I just start my slideshow. There we go. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Maria Harrison-Smith and I'm IP Manager at Monash and a patent attorney. Monash has a huge number of industry partnerships going on, of which I'm aware of a few of them and a few of the mechanisms, and I'll give you a broad summary here, but I can't pretend to have knowledge of everything that's going on. There have been some big ones over the years. Monash was one of the pioneers of the IVF technology and had early patents there, so that brought a lot of financial return back to the university and a big impact on society, and so both of those things are important, but we also have just a huge number of smaller scale industry partnerships that have big impact on new and emerging technologies and crucial projects in business and education sectors as well. So I'll just give you a bit of an overview of some of the types of deals and relationships that we might do. Just a bit of a summary slide of the various mechanisms. The first one is the area that I'm primarily part of, where they've IP created by our researchers and students at the university, and then we look to partner those ones. Then we do a number of spin-out companies. Every year there's a few new ones. Contract research, a huge number of those sort of partnerships with industry. There's lots of facility for students to work with industry partners to solve industry challenges. We have some platform technologies at the university that industry can use those services. And then there's some other projects that are non-profit, big impact to and public good to Australia and the rest of the world. Many of our researchers, they'll initially be grant funded, and then they get to a point where they think, wow, this could be good, and they want to publish it. And often we've got to jump in there and say, hold on, if it's appropriate, it might be worth filing a patent here, because there are some technologies we have to have the IP protected if we want to have successful commercialisation. So before they get their publication out, we'll work with them to do a bit of a flyer of their technology, file the patent, and then speak to industry. And that can be via partnering conferences. It can be, there are partnering sites. There's just industry contacts that we have, a whole range of different ways that we might connect with industry. We always have these sorts of pipeline charts of all our various technologies that we have available for licensing or partnering with. This is an old one here, but just gives you an idea, and we'll list all our available technologies there and how far they are through their development stage, and then see what interest we get. And we might just go back a couple of slides. Ideally, that will lead to some sort of license arrangement, and with that industry partner, we'd talk on all these sorts of terms. There might be an upfront fee to license the technology. The industry partner hopefully will cover the patent costs, because that can be a huge burden for the university. They provide research funding, milestone payments, and if it's a product or a service that will eventually be on the market, then there'd be a royalty return to the university as well. So an example, we might be working with venture capitalists who are just into investing for a few years and then looking for an exit strategy, or it could, some technologies go directly to the big industry partners as well. An example of one that we've just is quite current at the moment, a technology that was developed by researchers at Monash We filed patents in 2014 and did this license deal with Island Pharmaceuticals. They've continued to support the technology since then. They've done a recent listing, and they were hoping for about 7 million. This is Australian dollars, 7 million. It was oversubscribed to about 35 million, as it turned out. So that was just last month. It's at phase 2 trials. So yeah, it's a long, slow process, but you've got to be patient. Sorry, that's my dog. Yeah. Another one that there was a license. So we had some researchers that developed this blood typing device. It's instant point of care, and just takes a drop of blood onto this. They're experts in microfluidic technologies. Single drop of blood and you get a result instantly of the blood typing. So that one has been licensed to a company. The company's manufacturing them. They're working through getting the regulatory approval, and hopefully they will, well, they are on the market for pre-donation screening already, but they're looking to broaden that. But that's been a long story, again, about 8 years, something like that, but getting there now. We also do spin-outs, another one that's been quite topical lately. This one, 4D Medical, which does lung imaging. And this was a passionate researcher that has carried this one all the way. He didn't get an industry partner early, but he got a lot of investment from different individuals. It has the ability to image the lung, but with a moving image. So you can see how the airflow is going through the lungs, and it's a much, it shows the health of the lung a lot more clearly than a static scan would do. So it's recent, because of COVID, lung health is very important now. So a lot more focus on this technology, and yeah, it got a grant for 28.9 Australian dollars just last month. So that was that's quite exciting. Now, with those sort of deals, we might do 30 or so of those license deals each year, maybe a bit more, varies. But contract research, that's going on all throughout the university. It's not so much my area, but there's a load of researchers that work with industry. I've just put one example here, civil engineering team. They've got expertise in monitoring bridge health. And at the moment, there's like, I think there was a generator, a giant generator that needed to be transported through Victoria, and they need to, before they take such a heavy, huge piece of equipment on bridges, they need to check the health of the bridges. Same with our underground rail tunnel digging equipment, and also just checking bridges for their health for the future with various climate incidents that could come in the future as well. So they're smaller contracts, but constant contracts. Now, we also have a number of different industry-funded student projects. Mighty has teams of students, and so the university helps partner the student teams with industries that could really benefit from having a team to work for a few months on a particular problem or challenge that they've got, or some new initiative they would like the students to work on. The same with GRIP. GRIP can go, they're longer programs, but again, it's usually an industry partner has a need, and they just need 1 or 2 students to help them with that. The third one I've listed there is a program we have in India, which again is industry-focused postgraduate scholarships. At the university, we've also got a few sort of platform technologies. One big one, we have a very successful pharmacy, faculty of pharmacy. They're one of the highest ranked pharmacy faculties around the world. And they've recently launched their Medicines Manufacturing Innovation Centre. They can optimise drug candidates for pharmaceutical manufacturers and allied industries. And it's an initiative between the state government and Monash University and the Faculty of Pharmacy. This is another one of our researchers. He, rather than using cadavers for anatomy classes and surgical education, he did 3D printed scans of the cadavers that they had there in the faculty already, and these are now available for hospitals and education places to purchase whole sets of these 3D printed anatomy models. They've also developed that further now by making them electronic as well. So you have a virtual scan of the bodies that can also be used for anatomy and surgery education. Licensed quite broadly. It's an ongoing project, that one. To get a little bit more into the tech zone, we've got a team of, they're actually dietitian scientists, and they many years ago identified these certain types of sugar that cause gut irritation in some people. They're known as FODMAPs, for fermentable oligodine monosaccharides and polyols. So they wrote this smartphone app, which has been so successful since it launched. Well, it must be about 8 years ago now. It's been consistently the #1 downloaded medical app on the App Store. There's been a million other even FODMAP apps over the years, but people just know the reliability of this one and stay with it, and it's had good backup to fix any bugs, and continuously develop it with time as well. Another software project was the SwapMe project. It was a student developer team, and they built a web app for students to enable students to request changes to their timetables and process those changes. And so they could be big multi-swaps, which previously wasn't really feasible to do. So that's been adopted by the university and used all the time by all the university students, about 70,000 of them we've got at the moment. We also have plenty of non-profit industry-funded public good projects. The one in particular that I'll mention is inhaled oxytocin for the prevention of postpartum hemorrhage. So significant bleeding after giving birth. In developed countries, it's very easy to have an injection of oxytocin, but in the developing world, it's very good if you can avoid that need for cold chain storage. So they have formulated a powder to do that, and it's been a big project. Again, 10 years probably. Initial funding from Monash, then significant funding from GSK, and now Janssen are also funding that project. There's that just with the government industry research organisation partnerships. We've got CRCs available to us where the government will co-fund industry-led research. And then we also have many ARC linkage grants. It's a grant scheme that will co-fund co-fund projects where there's an industry partner also putting in funding and research partner. Another, I don't think, I'll just, before I finish there, could have something in the business sector. There's another project that just comes to mind is a big investment banker has some of our researchers doing a, what should we call it, a scoring companies for how well they line up with the Paris Agreement. And then based on those scores, you know, the different funds can decide whether they would like to invest in those companies or not. So it's just such a range of different things that are relevant to industry. So I think I'll stop with that. Just a brief summary of all the ways in which Monash engages with industry partners, and hopefully these will continue to grow in Indonesia. Indonesia having a lot of industrial technological capabilities there. So thanks very much, George and all.
Thank you, Maria, Miss Maria, Ibu Maria. Question: are you thinking of this ecosystem or the conceptual framework of the ecosystem that you just shared with, you know, obviously IP involved in this process? Are you thinking of doing that also in Indonesia in terms of the university or the campus there in Indonesia?
Yeah. So, like the ideal thing is we have a really good cooperative relationship there, so that Monash Indonesia can benefit from the experience and capabilities that we have in Australia, and that's how we're trying to develop our working relationship with Monash Malaysia as well. It's just where we've been around a lot longer, we have a lot more people filling those positions, and so can help Monash Indonesia get off the ground and share some of our techniques, skills.
Very good. And how about the IP? Would the IP be recognized in Australia if it was developed out of Indonesia?
Yes, usually. So IP is crucial for some projects, not for all projects. But even in Australia, when we file patents, we're looking to the world market, really. Australia is a small market, and so we would file something that can be extended to the major markets. So a lot of our filings would cover probably US primarily, then Europe. Yeah, whatever country is particularly applicable to that technology.
Yeah, very strategic, very strategic. Very important element in innovation is the IP and the recognition of the IP, especially in certain markets. So thank you very much, Ibu Maria. And there is a question from the audience. It goes back also to digital talent. I'd like to fly that first to Herman from Tokopedia, and then Professor Andrew from Monash Indonesia. Please, by Herman, how do you see the digital talent in Indonesia? Is it there? or
one of the most passionate topic from me. So do you mind if I share of my story just quickly, maybe like 3 minutes? All right. So I was raised and born in Indonesia. Then 1998, you can calculate my age then. 1998, I actually moved to Australia and did my undergraduate Clayton, Bachelor of Computer Science and Engineering, Goro Tunda, right? After 2002, as the only son in the family, my parents actually asked me to come back. Herman, please come back. Please take care of your parents and everything else, the Eastern culture. Basically, I said to them, Mom, Dad, what can I be? I'm just a tukang computer, right? I'm just a computer programmer. I will not be able to be successful in Indonesia unless I end up doing business, right? I'm not really, I'm not really interested at the time to basically taking MBA. Then after that, I had to upset my mom that, yeah, sorry, Mom, I cannot go back to Indonesia. I have to really pursue this in a more mature market, I would say, either Singapore or Australia. Then I think 2005, I got the opportunity to go to US and work for Microsoft and then, as a kid that actually get a job in Microsoft, man, it's so exciting, right? It's like a kid getting a candy. Then I immediately said after we get married, hey, honey, let's basically go to US and basically just move there. 2005, I actually moved to US. I still remember that some of the questions from my friends, from my peers. Hey, Herman, where are you from? I'm from Indonesia. Oh, where is Indonesia? And then they said, oh, there's a place near Southeast Asia. The place that actually has a lot of islands. Oh, I know a country called Bali. No. Bali is not a country. Bali is actually part of Indonesia. Oh, gitu. Okay. Then after that, it's very funny. There are two questions that I shared this to some of the audiences to actually share the excitement of Indonesia now. There are two questions they basically asked me. They basically asked me, hey, Herman, is your house near a rice field? Sawah, gitu. Maybe they thought that, Indonesian actually live in the villages and everything else, right? Remember, this is 2005, where we have a lot of malls and everything else, right? They thought that I live near a villages, right? Nothing wrong with villages, but they thought that their perception is that, oh, every Indonesian lives beside a rice field. And I said, no. I live in a normal home, like very much in Seattle and everything else, and the kind of thing. I try to be nice and cool, right? And after that, not so long after, he asked again, Herman, a follow-up question, yeah. Do you have electricity at home? I was like, dude, my mall is bigger than your mall, okay? So, I mean, it's very, very exciting, the concept and the literacy that they have with regards to the Southeast Asia, let alone Indonesia. Now, fast forward in 2014, that was 2005, yeah. Fast forward in 2014, when I actually get a job in Facebook. I had to move my family from Seattle to San Francisco, and I still remember that I was thinking in my mind, man, I have to explain again, Indonesia, Bali, I don't live near a rice field, I have electricity, and I have bigger mall than yours, so on and so forth, right? But what's exciting is that at that time, I don't even need to actually answer or explain all of that, because Indonesia is already in the OKR of Facebook, right? It's already in their KPI. It's very exciting that whenever they hear about Indonesia, suddenly I'm like a new kid on the block, new rock star on the block. Hey, you're from Indonesia? I want to talk to you. And I think now, I think this is where the different excitement is really right now, right? I mean, we have to remember that Indonesia is the fourth largest population in the world, where the first to the third, US, China, and India already got fully digitalized, I would say. Now all eyes are actually in this region, right? And of course, Indonesia is the largest region the largest country in the region, the largest market in the region. So every eyes are on Indonesia. So I think this is where this is a great opportunity for us to really take this momentum, right? And really see a lot of acceleration. To be honest, 3 years ago when I moved back to Indonesia, I never thought that I will be leading technology in one of the largest technology company in the world, right? I never managed a team of this big. I never managed this kind of scale. But I think all of these are because of the opportunity and the acceleration. And this is where the exciting part is. I think I just want to reiterate a bit to Ibu Maria. Thinks about IT. I think Indonesia, with the digitalization, with the new kind of thing, I think, when we talk about assets, right? Before we talk about things that we can touch, for example, buildings, our factory, our production line, our car, and everything else, right? I think now these days, Indonesia, we need to start learning about two new important assets that we have to protect, right? In my opinion, number one is talent. Because without talent, without smart people, there is no way we can see growth. The reason why Microsoft stock, Google stock, Facebook stock continue growing despite they have no asset whatsoever, is truly because of all of the crazy excitement and crazy innovation being built by the talent. And number two is intellectual property. I'm a huge believer of that. This is where we need to start cataloging, patenting, defensive publication it, some of the innovation that we have, because we will be playing on the world class very soon. And I think this is the moment where we need to start thinking about protecting these two, right? Intellectual property we protect, talent we need to nurture and grow. This is where I'm personally and Tokopedia Academy, we are really welcoming academia and industry partnership, because the way I see it is that there are a lot of smart people in the academia. Industry has a lot of hard problems to solve. Why don't we marry them together? And hopefully we can actually impact the country more. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Herman. And Professor, before you end up this conversation, I'd like to recognize also some people that I've just took a peek at the participant list here. We have Muhammad Reza Abdullah, Honorary Consul. He's the Secretary General of the Council of Honorary Consuls in Indonesia, representing multiple countries. We have over 100 honorary consuls. Thank you for attending. And also, I notice our friends from across the ocean, Peter Craven, the president of AIBC Tasmania, and Jeff Parker, also from AIBC, our sister organization across the ocean in Australia. And actually, Jeff has a question, and it leads to probably pretty much the same discussion we have here. So, Professor, as we are coming up to the top of the hour, I'm going to give you the closing remarks. And it gets back to the issue that Herman has been talking about again also, and what Shinta and Ibu Maria has been sharing is the talent pool. And that is where education, that's where Monash Indonesia, as an Indonesian university now, plays a role. How are you going to develop that talent pool to be at par with the challenges of today in leading Indonesia's national economic recovery? So Professor, please share your thoughts and also provide concluding remarks as we now are coming to the top of the hour. Professor Andrew MacIntyre, the Zoom floor is yours.
Thank you, George. And let me build on Herman's comments and also pick up on Jeff Parker's question that you've helpfully flagged for us, because they tie together really nicely, and it's all about talent development. Personally, I am really optimistic about Indonesia's human capital in the digital sector. And I think the optimism is partly just the way Indonesia is responding and adapting and picking up on the digital technology so rapidly, but it's also what Indonesian education institutions are doing. As you mentioned, we've got UGM on the line. I know Universitas Pajajaran is also on the line, and other institutions too. Great things they're doing. Great things they're doing. And Herman's Tokopedia Academy. And this links to Jeff's question about vocational education, because I think there's some quite exciting things going on, not just in the university sector, but in the applied vocational sector. We know the Apple Academy is doing nice things in Indonesia. We know there's a number of nice private initiatives to get stuff going, and I think we're going to see more of that. We know the government of Indonesia is looking to strengthen the vocational sector. One of the things I think we might see is universities looking to partner with vocational education institutions, because there's potentially really nice synergies between them. And I guess where I would end up following your invitation, George, is to say that, Monash is both proud and humble. Really proud to have been invited by the government of Indonesia to be the first foreign university, but also really humble, because this is a big challenge. We don't want to make a mess of it. We know we've got a lot to learn from Indonesian universities. And we are, as I was saying before, looking to partner with a cross-section of Indonesian universities so that we can bring our distinctive, what I was calling Monash magic, and that Maria was talking in more detail about, which is really all about social impact, economic impact, industry impact, and that's what Monash is really great at with our research and with our education programs. So we're looking forward to partnering with a wide range of Indonesian universities, a wide range of companies, and of course, Government of Indonesia. And thank you to IABC for making it possible for all of us to come together like this today. Thank you very much, George.
Thank you, Professor Andrew MacIntyre, the Senior Pro Vice-Chancellor of Monash University and Pak Rector of Monash Indonesia. Pak Rector of Monash Indonesia. Welcome to Indonesia. Welcome, Monash Indonesia. We're happy to embrace you and welcome you to the family of education and industry community. So with that, I want to thank Professor Andrew MacIntyre, Ibu Shinta Kamdani, the Vice Chairperson of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Herman Wijaya, Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of Tokopedia, and also a Monash alumni, and also Ibu Maria Harrison Smith, the IP Manager of Monash University. I want to thank you all for joining this conversation today. And as we conclude, I want to thank all the Monash team, our collaborator, Ibu Selfie, and also her team, Ibu Erika Tippett and Ibu Joanne. And also, I'd like to thank the IABC Secretariat, Pak Arfat, Ibu Fairly, Bu Hana, for supporting this conversation today. On behalf of IABC and its board, thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists, for this great conversation. Let us continue to move forward in bringing Indonesia and Australia closer together, and together we shall recover. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. I give the floor back to the IABC Secretariat to close this webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.